The moon hung high above the Moonfang Kingdom. Silver light poured across the massive royal arena like liquid glass. Thousands of wolves filled the stone seats that circled the ceremonial grounds. Noble alphas stood proudly in expensive robes. Future warriors lined the outer walls. Omegas remained near the back, careful not to draw attention. Tonight was the royal mating ceremony. The most important night in the kingdom. The night when Alpha King Kael would officially choose the woman who would stand beside him as Luna. Excitement filled the air. Whispers moved through the crowd. Everyone believed they already knew who the future queen would be. Seraphina. Beautiful. Powerful. Ambitious. The daughter of one of the strongest alpha bloodlines. She stood near the front wearing a silver gown that sparkled beneath the moonlight. Confidence radiated from her smile. She looked like someone who already owned the throne. At the very back of the crowd stood Ayla. Nobody noticed her. Nobody ever did. She wore a simple grey dress. Her dark hair was tied back. Her hands were rough from years of work. While others dreamed about becoming Luna, Ayla only hoped the night would pass quickly. Because every royal event reminded her of something painful. She didn't belong. Not among nobles. Not among warriors. Not even among ordinary wolves. She was an Omega without a wolf. A living embarrassment. At least that was what the kingdom believed. Ayla lowered her eyes as a group of young wolves walked past. One of them laughed. Look. The wolf-less Omega actually came. Another smirked. Maybe she thinks the king will choose her. The group burst into laughter. Ayla remained silent. She was used to it. Years ago, such words would have hurt. Now they simply felt empty. The arena suddenly grew quiet. Massive gates opened. Alpha King Kael entered. The crowd immediately stood. A wave of respect moved through the kingdom. Kael walked with calm confidence. Tall. Powerful. Feared across every known territory. His black ceremonial armor reflected the moonlight. His silver eyes scanned the crowd without emotion. He was the strongest alpha alive. And everyone knew it. Even Ayla looked up. For a brief moment. Only a brief moment. Then she looked away. Because she knew men like Kael existed in a different world. A world she could never enter. The royal elder stepped forward. The ceremony shall begin. A giant crystal positioned in the center of the arena started glowing. Ancient symbols appeared inside its surface. The crystal was older than the kingdom itself. According to legend, it could identify fated mates chosen by destiny. Most wolves never experienced such a bond. But when it happened, it could change history. The elder raised his hands. The moon goddess shall reveal the king's destined path. The crystal brightened. Everyone watched. Many already expected Seraphina's name. Even Seraphina smiled confidently. Then the crystal flashed. A name slowly appeared. The entire arena fell silent. The elder stared. His face drained of color. What? Murmurs spread through the crowd. The elder looked again. Then again. As if hoping he had read it incorrectly. But the name remained. The crystal suddenly projected glowing letters into the sky. Ayla. Silence. Complete silence. Then confusion exploded everywhere. What? Impossible. That can't be right. The Omega. The wolf-less girl. Ayla froze. Her heart stopped. She looked around, certain there had been a mistake. But every eye in the kingdom was staring directly at her. The crowd parted, creating space around her. Like she carried a disease. Ayla's breathing became uneven. This wasn't possible. Nothing like this ever happened to people like her. The elder swallowed hard. The moon goddess has named Ayla as the king's fated mate. The words echoed through the arena. Shock transformed into outrage. The crowd erupted. Seraphina's smile disappeared instantly. Her face twisted with disbelief. Several nobles openly protested. An alpha warrior shouted, "She's an Omega." Another yelled, "She doesn't even have a wolf. Reject it. Choose again." The noise became overwhelming. Ayla wished the ground would swallow her whole. Then her eyes met Kael's. For a moment neither moved. Neither spoke. The entire kingdom waited. The king could still accept fate. Or reject it. Kael's expression remained unreadable. Cold. Controlled. Dangerously calm. The silence stretched. Then he finally spoke. His deep voice echoed through the arena. I reject the bond. The words hit like a blade. Gasps erupted across the crowd. Ayla felt something crack inside her chest. Not because she loved him. She barely knew him. But because once again the world had looked at her and decided she wasn't enough. Kael continued. I will not place the future of this kingdom in the hands of a wolfless Omega. His voice held no cruelty. Only judgment. Which somehow hurt more. The crowd exploded into cheers. Many laughed openly. Others pointed toward Ayla. The humiliation was complete. Seraphina smiled again. Victory returned to her eyes. Ayla stood motionless. Everyone expected tears. Everyone expected begging. Everyone expected heartbreak. But something unexpected happened. Ayla laughed. A small laugh at first. Then another. The sound echoed through the silent arena. The crowd immediately stopped. Confusion replaced amusement. Ayla lifted her eyes toward Kael. There was no anger there. No hatred. No desperation. Only sadness. Almost pity. Kael frowned. For the first time all evening, uncertainty touched his face. Ayla shook her head slowly. Then she smiled. A broken smile. A tired smile. The smile of someone who had already survived worse things. You rejected me before you even knew me. Her voice was quiet. Yet every person heard it. Thank you, Your Majesty. The crowd looked confused. Kael stared at her. Ayla continued. You saved me from making the same mistake. A shocked murmur spread through the arena. Nobody had ever spoken to the Alpha King like that. Nobody. Kael's jaw tightened slightly. But Ayla simply turned away. She walked toward the exit. Slowly. Gracefully. Without tears. Without begging. Without looking back. The crowd watched her leave. And somehow her dignity felt more powerful than all their laughter. As she reached the gates, pain suddenly shot through her chest. A strange warmth spread beneath her skin. Silver light flickered briefly near her wrist. Ancient markings appeared for less than a second. Then vanished. Nobody noticed. Except Kael. His eyes narrowed. Something about that symbol felt familiar. Ancient. Dangerous. Impossible. Before he could react, Ayla disappeared into the darkness beyond the arena. And for reasons he couldn't explain. The victory suddenly felt hollow. Hours later the kingdom celebrated. Music filled the castle. Wine flowed endlessly. Nobles congratulated Seraphina. Warriors laughed and danced. But Ayla walked alone through quiet streets. The night felt colder than usual. She wrapped her arms around herself. The rejection replayed repeatedly in her mind. Not because she wanted Kael. Because she was tired. Tired of being judged. Tired of proving her worth. Tired of existing at the bottom of everyone's world. She eventually reached a small storage district near the edge of town. This was where she worked. This was where she lived. Far away from the beautiful parts of the kingdom. Ayla unlocked a tiny room. The space was barely large enough for a bed and table. Yet she smiled sadly. Home. At least nobody expected anything from her here. She sat quietly by the window. Outside, the celebration continued. Inside, only silence remained. Then she noticed something strange. A faint silver glow flickered across her hand. Just for a second. Then disappeared. Ayla frowned. What was that? She examined her skin. Nothing. No mark. No light. Nothing unusual. Eventually she convinced herself she imagined it. She didn't know the truth. Ancient magic had awakened tonight. And powerful forces across the world had felt it. The next morning began like every other. Work. Exhaustion. Silence. Ayla carried heavy sacks into the storage houses. Workers barked orders at her. Nobody offered help. Nobody said thank you. Hours passed. By evening her body ached. As she finished organizing supplies, she heard a crash. Something moved behind stacked crates. Ayla froze. Slowly she approached. Another sound followed. A frightened gasp. She moved around the crates. There, hiding in the shadows, was a small wolf pup. No older than 6. Thin. Dirty. Hungry. The boy clutched a stolen loaf of bread. Fear filled his eyes. The moment he saw her, he stepped backward. "I'm sorry." His voice trembled. "I was hungry." Ayla looked at the bread. Then at the child. She sighed softly. "When was the last time you ate?" The pup lowered his head. "Yesterday." Ayla's heart tightened. Without hesitation she sat beside him. Then broke her own meal in half. She handed him a piece. The pup stared. Confused. "You aren't angry?" Ayla smiled gently. "No." The boy accepted the food. He ate quickly. Almost desperately. Watching him made her realize how lonely she truly was. The pup eventually looked up. "My name is Finn." "Ayla." Finn smiled. A genuine smile. Perhaps the first genuine smile anyone had given her all week. Maybe longer. And for reasons neither understood. A strange silver glow briefly appeared between their hands. Gone before either could notice. Somewhere deep beneath the earth. Ancient magic stirred. Ancient eyes opened. And destiny quietly began moving toward them. The story of the rejected Omega was only beginning. And soon the entire kingdom would learn a terrifying truth. The girl they mocked was far more dangerous than they could imagine. The days following the royal mating ceremony felt strangely different. For Ayla, life appeared unchanged on the surface. She still worked long hours. She still lived in her small room near the storage district. She still endured cruel stares and whispered insults. Yet something had shifted. People were talking about her. Everywhere she went, wolves stared. Some mocked her more than before. Others looked at her with curiosity. After all, she was the Omega who had laughed at Alpha King Kael. No one could stop discussing it. Meanwhile, inside the royal palace, lunar candidate Seraphina stood before a tall mirror. Her reflection looked perfect. Beautiful. Elegant. Powerful. But her eyes burned with anger. The memory of that night haunted her. Not because Ayla had been chosen. Because Ayla had walked away with dignity. The kingdom should have remembered Seraphina's victory. Instead they remembered Ayla's laughter. That was unacceptable. Seraphina clenched her fists. A nobody Omega has become a story. One of her servants lowered her head. "What would you like us to do, my lady?" Seraphina's smile slowly returned. "Cold. Dangerous. Destroy her." The servant swallowed. "My lady. Find everything about her. Every secret. Every weakness. And if there are no secrets?" Seraphina's eyes darkened. "Then create them." Across the kingdom, Ayla remained completely unaware of the storm gathering around her. She sat beside Finn near the edge of a quiet stream. The little wolf pup skipped stones across the water. Each failed attempt made him laugh. Ayla smiled. Moments like these felt rare. Peaceful. Safe. For the first time in years, she wasn't completely alone. Finn suddenly looked up. "Ayla." "Yes." "If I was your real pup, would you leave me?" The question caught her off guard. She turned toward him. Finn stared at the ground. His voice became softer. "Everyone leaves." Ayla's heart broke. The boy was trying very hard not to cry. Slowly she reached over and brushed his hair back. "I wouldn't leave you." Finn looked up immediately. "Promise." Ayla smiled. "I promise." The boy threw his arms around her. For a brief moment, silver light flickered around them again. Ayla didn't notice. Finn didn't notice. But hidden among distant trees, someone else did. A spy. One of Seraphina's spies. Watching everything. Waiting. Several nights later, the kingdom awoke to shocking news. The sacred moon relics had been stolen. The announcement spread rapidly. Every wolf pack heard the same message. Ancient treasures belonging to the royal family had disappeared from the vault. Panic spread across Moonfang Kingdom. The relics were priceless. More importantly, they carried immense symbolic power. The Royal Council demanded answers. Searches began immediately. Guards flooded the city. Homes were inspected. Workers questioned. Suspicion grew everywhere. Then, 3 days later, another announcement shook the kingdom. The thief had been found. Her name was Ayla. Ayla was carrying grain sacks when royal guards suddenly surrounded her. The storage district immediately fell silent. Workers stepped away. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The captain approached. Ayla of Moonfang. Confusion crossed her face. Yes. You are under arrest for theft against the crown. The sack slipped from her hands. What? Gasps spread through nearby workers. Ayla blinked. There must be a mistake. The captain showed no emotion. We found royal relics inside your residence. Her entire body froze. What? You will come with us. I didn't steal anything. But nobody listened. Heavy chains were placed around her wrists. The humiliation burned deeper than the metal itself. Workers watched. Some whispered. Others smiled. Ayla's chest tightened. Not again. Not another judgment. Not another accusation. As guards led her away, she spotted Finn running toward them. The little pup looked terrified. Ayla! The guards blocked him. No. Finn struggled desperately. She didn't do anything. Ayla forced herself to smile. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Not even close. Because somewhere inside the royal palace, Seraphina watched from a balcony. And she smiled. Everything was going exactly as planned. The trial took place the following day. Every seat inside the grand hall was filled. Nobles, warriors, pack leaders, citizens. Everyone wanted to witness the downfall of the infamous Omega. Ayla stood alone at the center of the room. Chains restrained her wrists. The sight made many wolves smirk. At the front sat Alpha King Kael. Cold, silent, unreadable. Beside him stood Seraphina, pretending to look concerned. The royal prosecutor stepped forward. Ayla of Moonfang has been accused of stealing sacred relics belonging to the crown. The crowd murmured. Evidence was presented. Several relics recovered from her room. Witnesses claiming they saw her near the vault. Servants claiming she behaved suspiciously. Everything looked convincing. Pain twisted inside Ayla's chest. She had never seen those relics before. Someone had planted them. But how could she prove it? The prosecutor turned toward her. Do you deny these charges? Yes. Then explain how the relics appeared in your home. Ayla opened her mouth. Then closed it again. She had no answer. Because she genuinely didn't know. The crowd immediately interpreted her silence as guilt. Whispers spread rapidly. She stole them. I knew it. Typical Omega. Disgraceful. Ayla lowered her eyes. Not because she was ashamed. Because she was exhausted. Years of humiliation suddenly felt heavier than ever. Then a small voice echoed through the hall. She's innocent. Everyone turned. Finn. The pup pushed through the crowd. His eyes filled with tears. She didn't do it. A guard grabbed him. Finn struggled desperately. Let me go. The child pointed toward Ayla. She helps everyone. She gives food away. She saves people. She would never steal anything. Some wolves laughed. Others rolled their eyes. To them, he was just a child. His words carried no weight. Finn looked toward Kael. Desperate. Please tell them. Kael remained silent. The silence hurt more than any insult. Ayla watched Finn's face fall. Her heart shattered. The one person trying to defend her wasn't even being heard. As the trial continued, Kael observed quietly. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. He had presided over countless hearings. He knew guilt. He knew deception. Yet Ayla displayed neither. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't making excuses. She wasn't desperately trying to save herself. Instead, she simply stood there, calm, sad, dignified, almost as if she already expected the world to condemn her. The realization disturbed him. He glanced toward Seraphina. She appeared confident. Too confident. Kael frowned slightly. For the first time, doubt entered his mind. What if Ayla wasn't guilty? But before he could investigate further, another witness entered the chamber. A former palace servant. The woman bowed dramatically, then pointed toward Ayla. I saw her leaving the royal vault. The crowd erupted. The accusation was devastating. Everything suddenly seemed settled. Ayla stared at the woman. She had never seen her before. Not once. Yet the servant continued lying without hesitation. The prosecutor smiled. The evidence is overwhelming. Even Kael struggled to argue against it. Because every piece fit perfectly. Almost perfectly. Too perfectly. But the trial was moving too fast. And momentum had become impossible to stop. Hours later, judgment arrived. The crowd held its breath. Ayla stood motionless. Finn cried openly. Kael rose from his throne. The entire hall fell silent. His voice echoed across the chamber. After reviewing the evidence, Ayla closed her eyes. Ayla of Moonfang is found guilty. The words hit like thunder. Finn screamed. No. Ayla didn't react. Not outwardly. Inside, something simply went quiet. The crowd celebrated. Many cheered. Some demanded harsher punishment. Prison. Execution. Make an example of her. Kael raised his hand. The hall immediately quieted. The sentence is exile. Gasps spread. Some believed she deserved worse. Others seemed disappointed. Ayla slowly opened her eyes. Exile. Permanent banishment. She would lose her home. Her job. Her life. Everything. Yet strangely, she felt nothing. No anger. No tears. Only emptiness. The kingdom had already exiled her long before today. This merely made it official. Kael looked directly at her. Waiting. Perhaps expecting a reaction. A plea. An argument. Anything. Instead, Ayla spoke softly. I understand. The simplicity of her answer unsettled him. Most wolves fought desperately against exile. Ayla simply accepted it. Not because she agreed. Because she no longer expected fairness. And somehow that realization hurt Kael more than her anger would have. That evening, the kingdom gathered to watch her departure. The gates stood open. Rain fell from dark clouds overhead. Ayla carried one small bag. Nothing more. Years of life reduced to a few possessions. The crowd watched. Some looked satisfied. Others looked curious. Very few looked ashamed. Finn pushed through the gathering. Tears streamed down his face. You can't go. Ayla knelt beside him. The rain soaked her hair, her clothes, her skin. Yet she smiled gently. You need to be brave. I don't want brave. Finn sobbed. I want you. The words nearly broke her. Ayla hugged him tightly. For several seconds neither moved. Then she whispered softly. You are stronger than you think. Finn shook his head. No. Yes. You don't know that. Ayla touched his chest. Because real strength lives here. Finn cried harder. The sight made even some spectators uncomfortable. Ayla stood. Then looked toward the massive gates. Beyond them waited exile. Danger. Uncertainty. And loneliness. But before leaving, she turned back one last time. Her eyes found Kael. The Alpha King stood watching silently. Rain rolled down his face. For a brief moment neither spoke. Neither moved. A strange feeling passed between them. Regret. Confusion. Questions. Then Ayla turned away. And walked into the storm. The gates slowly closed behind her. The kingdom believed her story was over. They were wrong. Because beyond those gates, destiny was waiting. And before long, The entire world would learn the truth. The rejected Omega was far more than she appeared. And exile was only the beginning. The rain did not stop. Cold drops fell endlessly from the dark sky as Ayla walked farther away from the Moonfang Kingdom. Each step carried her deeper into exile. Deeper into uncertainty. Behind her stood the only home she had ever known. Ahead waited darkness. The muddy road stretched endlessly through the wilderness. Strong winds howled through ancient trees. Lightning flashed across distant mountains. Most exiled wolves never survived these lands. Ayla knew that. Everyone knew that. The forests beyond Moonfang territory were dangerous. Monsters roamed freely. Rogue wolves hunted travelers. And darker things lived where moonlight could not reach. Still, she kept walking. Because she had no choice. Hours passed. The kingdom eventually disappeared behind the storm. Only silence remained. Ayla pulled her thin cloak tighter around herself. She was exhausted. Hungry. Alone. Or at least she thought she was. A branch suddenly snapped somewhere behind her. Ayla stopped. Slowly she turned around. Nothing. Only darkness. Only rain. She continued walking. Then another sound came. Closer this time. Crunch. 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 Ayla narrowed her eyes. Who's there? No answer. Her heartbeat quickened. The sound stopped immediately. The forest became silent once again. Too silent. Ayla stood perfectly still. Waiting. Listening. Then suddenly. Ayla! A small figure burst from behind a tree. Ayla gasped. Finn! The little wolf pup nearly crashed into her. His clothes were soaked. Mud covered his legs. His breathing was uneven. Ayla stared in disbelief. What are you doing here? Finn lowered his head. I followed you. Ayla blinked. You what? The boy refused to meet her eyes. I didn't want you to be alone. The words struck her heart. Hard. For several seconds she couldn't speak. This child had followed her into one of the most dangerous regions in the kingdom. Because he was worried about her. Ayla knelt immediately. Finn, this place isn't safe. I know. You could get hurt. I know. You should go back. Finn finally looked up. Tears filled his eyes. I don't have anyone to go back to. The storm suddenly felt colder. Ayla looked away. Because she understood exactly what he meant. Finn wasn't following her because he was reckless. He was following her because she was the only family he had. And deep down, he was the only family she had too. Ayla pulled him into a hug. The little pup immediately wrapped his arms around her. For a moment, the world felt quiet again. Safe again. Then lightning exploded across the sky. Reality returned. They were alone in the wilderness. And danger was everywhere. Night fell quickly. The storm intensified. Ayla eventually found shelter beneath an abandoned hunter's cabin. The roof leaked. The walls were broken. But it was enough. Finn sat beside a small fire while Ayla dried their clothes. The little pup looked exhausted. Yet he continued fighting sleep. Ayla. Yes. Are you angry? Ayla smiled softly. No. Really? Really? Finn relaxed slightly. Then his expression became serious. Why do people hate you? The question hurt more than she expected. Ayla stared into the flames. She wasn't sure how to answer. After a long silence she finally spoke. Sometimes people fear things they don't understand. Finn frowned. But you're nice. Ayla laughed quietly. Thank you. The boy moved closer. They're wrong about you. The simple statement almost brought tears to her eyes. Because nobody had ever said those words before. Nobody. Not once. Ayla gently touched his head. And once again. A faint silver glow appeared. Tiny. Barely visible. The light vanished before either noticed. But far away. Someone else felt it. Someone powerful. Someone ancient. Deep beneath forgotten ruins, enormous stone doors slowly trembled. Magic was awakening. The last Lycan bloodline was calling. And the world was beginning to answer. Back inside Moonfang Kingdom, Alpha King Kael stood alone in the royal archives. The massive chamber contained records stretching back centuries. Dust-covered ancient books. Faded scrolls lined stone shelves. Normally Kael rarely visited this place. Tonight was different. Because doubt refused to leave him. The trial continued haunting him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ayla standing alone before the kingdom. Calm. Broken. Yet somehow stronger than everyone judging her. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Kael grabbed another report. Then another. Then another. Hours passed. The deeper he investigated, the more disturbing the truth became. Witnesses who testified against Ayla all shared connections. Most worked for families loyal to Seraphina. Several had changed their stories multiple times. Others received sudden payments shortly before the trial. Kael's expression darkened. Coincidence? Perhaps. But too many coincidences created a pattern. And Kael was beginning to see one. Then he discovered something else. A report from a village elder. Years old. The document described Ayla rescuing trapped children during a flood. Another report described her donating winter supplies to struggling families. Another detailed how she volunteered during monster attacks. The list continued. Page after page. Good deeds. Acts of kindness. Acts of courage. None of it matched the image presented during the trial. None of it. For the first time, guilt entered Kael's heart. Real guilt. Because he had helped condemn someone he barely knew. Someone who might have been innocent. Then another document caught his attention. The title froze him completely. The Lycan Bloodline. Kael slowly opened the file. Ancient drawings covered the pages. Symbols. Prophesies. Forgotten history. Then he saw it. A mark. A silver symbol. Exactly like the one he had briefly seen glowing beneath Ayla's skin during the mating ceremony. Kael's pulse quickened. Impossible. The Lycan bloodline had vanished centuries ago. Every history book agreed. The last Lycan queen died hundreds of years earlier. Yet the symbol matched perfectly. Kael stared at the page. For the first time in many years. The Alpha King felt fear. Because if he was right, Ayla was far more important than anyone realized. Meanwhile, exile grew harder with each passing day. Food became scarce. Temperatures dropped. The wilderness became increasingly dangerous. Still, Ayla protected Finn. Always. Even when she was hungry. Even when she was exhausted. Even when she barely had enough strength for herself. One evening they discovered an injured traveler lying beside the road. A merchant. His wagon had overturned. One leg appeared broken. Finn looked worried. We should help him. Ayla nodded immediately. Without hesitation. Without expecting reward. Together they spent hours caring for the stranger. The merchant eventually regained consciousness. Confusion crossed his face. You helped me. Ayla smiled. Of course. The man stared. But you're exiles. Ayla simply shrugged. You're still injured. The merchant looked speechless. Because kindness was becoming rare in these lands. Yet Ayla offered it freely. The man never forgot her face. Neither would many others. Because stories travel quickly. Especially stories about unexpected heroes. Several days later, the blood moon arrived. A terrifying event feared across every wolf territory. The giant red moon hung low above the forest. Its crimson light painted everything in shades of scarlet. Even the air felt wrong. Unnatural. Dangerous. Finn stared upward nervously. I don't like it. Ayla understood. Neither did she. Every instinct told her something bad was coming. And for once, her instincts were correct. Because hidden among the trees, several figures moved silently through the darkness. Watching. Tracking. Waiting. Seraphina's assassins. She had grown impatient. Exile wasn't enough. As long as Ayla remained alive, she remained a threat. The solution was simple. Kill her. Make it look like a wilderness attack. Nobody would question it. Nobody would investigate. The assassins surrounded the cabin slowly, like wolves circling prey. One drew a blade. Another prepared poison darts. A third nodded toward the leader. The attack began. The first arrow shattered the cabin window. Ayla reacted instantly. Finn. The child dropped to the floor. Another arrow struck the wall. Then another. Then another. The cabin exploded into chaos. Ayla grabbed Finn. We need to run. The door burst open. Masked attackers flooded inside. Steel flashed beneath red moonlight. Finn screamed. The assassins charged. Ayla pushed the pup behind her. Fear filled her chest. Not for herself. For him. Always for him. The first attacker swung a sword. Ayla dodged barely in time. The blade sliced her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body. Blood stained her clothes. Another attacker rushed forward. Then another. Then another. There were too many. Far too many. Ayla fought desperately. But she wasn't a warrior. She wasn't an alpha. She wasn't even a wolf. She was simply an omega trying to protect a child. The odds were impossible. Yet she refused to move aside. One assassin grabbed Finn. The pup cried out. Ayla! Everything stopped. For a single moment. Ayla looked at the terrified child. Then at the blade pressed against his throat. Something ancient stirred deep within her. Something sleeping. Something powerful. The assassin smiled. Move and he dies. Ayla's hands trembled. Her heart pounded. Fear. Rage. Love. Protection. Every emotion collided at once. Then she stepped forward. Slowly. Dangerously. You will not touch him. The assassin laughed. What? You heard me. The red moon suddenly brightened. Wind exploded through the forest. The ground shook violently. The assassins looked around in confusion. Ayla's eyes began glowing silver. Bright. Ancient. Terrifying. Power surged through her veins. Energy erupted from her body like a storm. Silver light consumed the cabin. Consumed the forest. Consumed everything. The assassins stumbled backward in horror. What is she? Ancient markings appeared across Ayla's skin. Glowing. Beautiful. Terrifying. The very air bent around her. The forest trembled. Trees shook violently. The assassins panicked. Because they finally understood. They weren't hunting prey. They were facing something far older. Far stronger. Something legendary. Ayla raised her hand. Silver energy exploded outward. The attackers were thrown through the air like leaves in a hurricane. Several crashed into trees. Others fled immediately. Screaming. Terrified. The battle ended within seconds. Silence returned. The storm vanished. The forest became still. Then the silver light faded. Ayla staggered. Her body trembled violently. The power disappeared. The markings vanished. Everything went dark. She collapsed. Ayla! Finn rushed forward immediately. The little pup dropped beside her. Tears streamed down his face. Ayla, wake up! No response. The boy's hands shook. Fear consumed him. For several terrifying seconds he thought she was dead. Then finally, a weak breath escaped her lips. Finn cried with relief. Please don't leave me. He held her hand tightly, refusing to let go. Above them, the blood moon slowly faded behind clouds. But the night's events had already changed everything. Because miles away, Alpha King Kael arrived at the battle site. He had tracked unusual energy reports throughout the region. Nothing prepared him for what he found. Destroyed trees. Burned ground. Silver energy residue. Ancient power. Kael knelt slowly. His expression darkened. He recognized the energy immediately. The same energy connected to the Lycan records. The same energy connected to Ayla. His heart sank. Because the evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. The rejected Omega. The girl he had publicly cast aside. Might be connected to the greatest bloodline in werewolf history. Kael slowly rose. His silver eyes scanned the dark forest. One thought echoed through his mind. If this is true. He paused. A rare feeling tightening inside his chest. Regret. Deep regret. Because he was beginning to realize the truth. The greatest mistake of his life was not rejecting a weak Omega. It was failing to see who she truly was. And far ahead in the darkness, Ayla's destiny was only beginning to awaken. The forest was silent. Too silent. Only the crackling remains of broken trees disturbed the darkness. The battle was over. The assassins were gone. Yet the feeling of danger remained. Like the wilderness itself was holding its breath. Ayla lay unconscious beside the ruins of the cabin. Her face was pale. Her breathing weak. The silver markings that had covered her body were gone. As if they had never existed. Finn sat beside her. Refusing to leave. Refusing to sleep. The little pup held her hand tightly. Every few seconds he checked her breathing. Every few seconds he whispered her name. Ayla. Nothing. Ayla, please wake up. Still nothing. Hours passed. The night grew colder. Fear settled heavily inside the boy's chest. Because for the first time since meeting her, he didn't know how to protect her. And that terrified him. More than monsters. More than darkness. More than death itself. Because Ayla was the closest thing to family he had ever known. Suddenly, a weak cough escaped her lips. Finn jumped immediately. Ayla. Her eyes slowly opened. Blurry. Confused. Pain shot through her body. Everything hurt. The last thing she remembered was standing between Finn and the assassins. Then silver light. Then nothing. Ayla. Finn's voice trembled. The moment she saw his face, relief washed over her. You're safe. Tears instantly filled his eyes. You scared me. Ayla managed a weak smile. I'm sorry. The little pup hugged her carefully, as if afraid she might disappear. Ayla held him close. But deep inside, questions were growing. What happened? What was that power? Why had silver light exploded from her body? And why did it feel strangely familiar? Like a forgotten memory trying to return. Far away, inside Moonfang Kingdom, Alpha King Kael sat alone in his private chamber. The battle site reports covered his desk. Every detail pointed toward the same impossible conclusion. Ancient power. Silver energy. Lycan markings. Kael stared at an old book opened before him. The illustration on the page showed a queen. A woman covered in glowing silver symbols. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. The markings matched perfectly. His jaw tightened. No. Yet every piece of evidence continued leading back to Ayla. The rejected Omega. The girl everyone underestimated. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Enter. The door opened. His trusted advisor stepped inside. Your Majesty. What is it? The advisor hesitated. Then spoke carefully. We intercepted reports from northern territories. Kael looked up. What reports? The advisor swallowed. Several ancient factions are moving. Silence filled the room. Kael immediately understood the seriousness. Ancient factions rarely acted openly. Especially not at the same time. Which factions? The Shadow Claw. Kael stood instantly. The room suddenly felt colder. Because Shadow Claw wasn't merely a rogue group. They were a nightmare from history. A secret organization obsessed with ancient power. Merciless. Patient. Dangerous. For centuries they hunted magical bloodlines. Destroying anyone who threatened their ambitions. If Shadow Claw was moving, something significant had happened. Kael's eyes darkened. Why now? The advisor looked uneasy. Their spies believe the last Lycan Queen may be alive. Silence. Absolute silence. For several seconds nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Kael slowly turned toward the window. The moonlight illuminated his face. Ayla's image immediately appeared in his mind. And suddenly, everything became much worse. Because if Shadow Claw reached her first, she would never survive. Meanwhile, deep inside hidden mountains, Shadow Claw gathered. Hundreds of warriors filled a massive underground fortress. Dark banners covered ancient stone walls. Torches flickered. Weapons gleamed. At the center stood their leader, a terrifying alpha known as Darius. His scarred face radiated cruelty. His eyes carried the cold confidence of a man who feared nothing. A messenger knelt before him. The reports are confirmed. Darius leaned forward. The queen. Alive. Excitement spread throughout the chamber. Many believed the Lycan bloodline had vanished forever. Apparently they were wrong. Darius smiled. A dangerous smile. The kingdom has no idea what they possess. No, my lord. The girl. Currently hiding beyond Moonfang borders. Darius nodded slowly. Then his expression hardened. Bring her to me. The messenger lowered his head. Alive. Darius laughed softly. Alive if possible. His eyes darkened. Dead if necessary. The hunt had begun. And Ayla had no idea. Days passed. Ayla and Finn continued moving deeper into the wilderness. The attacks had changed everything. Remaining in one place was no longer safe. Someone wanted her dead. That much was obvious. But who? And why? The questions haunted her. Especially because she still couldn't explain what happened during the battle. Every time she remembered the silver energy, confusion followed. Finn eventually broke the silence. Ayla. Yes. You saved me. Ayla smiled slightly. Of course. No. Finn shook his head. You became something. Her smile faded. The memory returned immediately. Silver light. Power. Fear. Ayla. Finn looked nervous. Are you magic? The question made her laugh softly. I don't know. And that was the truth. She genuinely didn't know. That same afternoon, they arrived at a small village. The settlement appeared poor but peaceful. Families worked fields. Children played near wells. For the first time in days, hope returned. Maybe they could rest here. Maybe they could stay a few nights. Unfortunately, destiny had different plans. Because the moment they entered the village, frightened screams erupted nearby. Several villagers came running. Monsters. Run. Everyone run. Chaos exploded instantly. Ayla looked toward the forest. Massive wolf beasts emerged from the trees. Corrupted creatures. Twisted by dark magic. 3 times larger than ordinary wolves. Their eyes glowed red. Foam dripped from their jaws. The villagers panicked. Children cried. Families scattered. Ayla's heart sank. Without thinking, she moved. Directly toward the danger. Finn grabbed her sleeve. Ayla. Stay behind me. But. Stay behind me. The firmness in her voice surprised even herself. Because fear no longer controlled her. Not when innocent people needed help. The first beast charged. Villagers screamed. Ayla stepped forward. Alone. A simple Omega standing before monsters. It should have been suicide. Everyone knew that. Yet she refused to move. Refused to run. One terrified villager whispered. She's insane. Another shook his head. No. His voice carried disbelief. She's brave. The beast lunged. Then suddenly, silver light exploded from Ayla's hand. The monster crashed sideways. Thrown through the air. The village froze. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because they had just witnessed something impossible. Ayla stared at her glowing hands. Shock filled her face. The power was returning. And this time, it answered willingly. By nightfall the village had been saved. The beasts were gone. The people survived. And rumors began spreading immediately. Stories moved from traveler to traveler. Village to village. Pack to pack. A silver woman. A mysterious protector. A warrior queen. Different names. Different descriptions. Yet all pointing toward the same person. Ayla. Unfortunately, the rumors also reached Shadow Claw. And Seraphina. Inside Moonfang Palace, Seraphina paced furiously across her room. Her spies had delivered devastating news. Ayla was alive. Not only alive, growing stronger. The reports terrified her. Because powerful women created problems. Especially women connected to destiny. Seraphina slammed a glass against the wall. It shattered instantly. No. A servant flinched. My lady. I told them to kill her. The servant remained silent. Seraphina's breathing grew heavier. Fear mixed with jealousy. Jealousy mixed with hatred. Because deep down she sensed the truth. Ayla represented something she never could. Real strength. Real loyalty. Real love. And that made her dangerous. Very dangerous. Eventually Seraphina stopped pacing. Then smiled slowly. A terrible smile. If assassins couldn't kill Ayla, perhaps someone else could. Someone far more powerful. She immediately prepared a secret message. One addressed directly to Shadow Claw. The alliance had begun. Several weeks later, everything changed. Finn's mysterious birthmark began glowing. At first it appeared harmless. A faint silver symbol on his shoulder. Nothing more. Then each day the glow became stronger. Brighter. More active. Ayla noticed immediately. Concern filled her eyes. The mark wasn't normal. Especially because it reacted whenever ancient ruins appeared nearby. Or whenever her own power awakened. One evening, while camping beside a river, Finn suddenly cried out, Ayla! She rushed over instantly. What happened? The boy pointed toward his shoulder. The mark glowed brilliantly. Silver light pulsed beneath his skin. Ayla stared. Confused. Then something shocking happened. Images flooded her mind. Ancient temples. Silver crowns. Lost kingdoms. And one terrifying message. Protect the child. Ayla gasped. The vision vanished immediately. Her breathing became uneven. Finn looked frightened. What was that? Ayla couldn't answer. Because she didn't understand it herself. Yet one thing became clear. Finn wasn't an ordinary child. He was connected to this mystery. Connected to her destiny. Connected to the Lycan bloodline. And somewhere in the darkness, enemies were already coming for him. 3 nights later, the attack finally arrived. Shadow Claw had tracked them. Dozens of warriors surrounded their camp. Silent. Patient. Deadly. Ayla sensed danger immediately. She woke before dawn. Every instinct screamed the same warning. Run. Too late. A net crashed down from above. Finn screamed. Ayla! Warriors burst from every direction. The attack was overwhelming. Professional. Precise. Ayla fought desperately. Silver energy flashed. Several attackers fell. But more kept coming. Far more. This wasn't an assassination attempt. This was a military operation. Someone wanted Finn. Not her. Finn. The realization struck too late. A warrior grabbed the child. Another blocked Ayla's path. She unleashed her power. The attacker flew backward. But others immediately replaced him. Finn reached toward her desperately. Ayla! She ran forward. No. The child struggled. Fought. Screamed. But there were too many enemies. Far too many. The leader smiled. Thank you for finding him. Ayla froze. What? The warrior laughed. The prophecy child. Her blood turned cold. Prophecy. The word echoed inside her mind. Then everything suddenly made sense. The birthmark. The visions. The glowing symbols. They weren't hunting her. Not originally. They were hunting Finn. And she had led them directly to him. The warriors disappeared into the darkness. Taking Finn with them. The forest became silent. Ayla stood motionless. Breathing heavily. Broken. Terrified. For the first time since Exile began. She felt completely helpless. The little boy who trusted her. The child she promised never to abandon. Was gone. Ayla slowly fell to her knees. Rain began falling again. Cold. Endless. Merciless. Her promise echoed through her mind. I wouldn't leave you. Promise. I promise. Tears filled her eyes. Then something changed. The sadness transformed. Into determination. Into purpose. Into fury. Ayla slowly stood. The rain soaked her clothes. Her hair. Her skin. But she didn't care. Because the frightened Omega who accepted injustice no longer existed. Something stronger stood in her place now. Something ancient. Something awakening. Her silver eyes glowed faintly beneath the storm. And for the first time, the last queen made a decision. No matter who took Finn. No matter where they hid him. No matter how powerful they were. She would find them. She would save him. And anyone standing in her way would discover exactly why destiny had chosen her. Rain poured from the night sky. Cold drops struck the forest floor like tiny arrows. Thunder rolled across distant mountains. Yet Ayla barely noticed. She stood alone where Finn had been taken. The campfire had gone out. The ground was covered in footprints. Broken branches marked the path of the kidnappers. Every sign pointed toward the north. Toward the Blackstone Mountains. Toward Shadow Claw territory. Ayla stared into the darkness. For several long seconds she didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. Only one thought existed inside her mind. Finn. The frightened little pup who had trusted her. The child who had followed her into exile. The boy who called her family. He was gone. And for the first time since meeting him, Ayla had failed to protect him. The guilt felt unbearable. Rain mixed with tears she refused to shed. Then slowly, she closed her eyes. And made a promise. I'll find you. The wind howled around her. I don't care where they take you. Silver energy flickered beneath her skin. I won't let him face this alone. The trees trembled. The storm answered. And somewhere far away, ancient magic stirred. The queen was awakening. Meanwhile, Finn sat inside a cold stone prison. Heavy chains covered the walls. Torches flickered. Dark shadows danced across the floor. The little pup hugged his knees tightly. Fear consumed him. Every few minutes he looked toward the door. Hoping. Waiting. Praying. For Ayla. The door suddenly opened. Several Shadow Claw warriors entered. Behind them came a tall man wearing black armor. A scar crossed one side of his face. Cruel amusement filled his eyes. Darius. Leader of Shadow Claw. The most feared man in the Northern Territories. He stopped in front of Finn. For a moment neither spoke. Then Darius smiled. So this is the child. Finn remained silent. The Alpha crouched slightly. You know why you're special? Finn shook his head. No. Darius laughed softly. You will. The boy's heart pounded. What do you want? Darius studied him carefully. Then his expression darkened. I want what belongs to me. Fear tightened around Finn's chest. Because he didn't understand. But somehow, he knew this man was dangerous. Very dangerous. Far below the fortress, ancient tunnels stretched through the mountains. Deep within those tunnels rested something forgotten. Something powerful. A massive stone chamber hidden for centuries. At the center stood an ancient altar, covered in silver symbols. The symbols glowed faintly, as if waiting. Waiting for someone. Waiting for destiny. Darius stood before the altar later that night. One of his advisors approached. My lord. Speak. The child has been secured. Darius nodded. And the queen? The advisor hesitated. We lost her. Silence filled the chamber. Dangerous silence. Then Darius smiled. A smile somehow worse than anger. Good. The advisor blinked. My lord. Let her come. Confusion crossed the man's face. Darius looked toward the glowing altar. The prophecy requires both. Realization struck immediately. The advisor paled. You mean? Yes. Darius's eyes burned with obsession. Let the queen find us. Because the trap had already been prepared. 3 days passed. 3 long days. 3 painful days. Ayla barely slept. Barely ate. Barely rested. She followed every clue. Every footprint. Every broken branch. Every rumor. The journey pushed her beyond exhaustion. Yet she refused to stop. Because every hour mattered. Every minute mattered. Finn was alone. That thought kept her moving. Eventually she reached a small trading settlement. The villagers immediately recognized her. Stories of the Silver Woman had spread far and wide. An elderly merchant approached carefully. "You saved my life." Ayla recognized him immediately. The injured traveler she helped weeks earlier. The man smiled warmly. "You look tired." "I need information." The merchant's expression became serious. "About the child." Ayla froze. "How do you know?" "Everyone knows." His face darkened. Shadow Claw has been moving openly. Fear spread through the village. Several people lowered their heads. Others looked away. Even speaking the organization's name made them nervous. The merchant leaned closer. "They took him north." Ayla's heart raced. "Where?" The old man pointed toward distant mountains. "Blackstone Fortress." Silence followed. Every villager immediately looked uncomfortable. One woman whispered, "Nobody comes back from there." Another nodded. "It's impossible." Ayla looked toward the mountains. Dark peaks pierced the clouds. Danger waited there. Death waited there. Every logical voice told her the same thing. Turn back. Run. Survive. But then she remembered Finn's face. His smile. His trust. His promise. Ayla stood. Determination filled her eyes. "I have to go." The villagers stared. One elderly man shook his head. "Alone?" "Yes." The villagers exchanged worried looks. Then one woman spoke softly. "That's suicide." Ayla smiled sadly. "Maybe." Then she turned toward the mountains. And walked away. Alone. Without an army. Without allies. Without protection. Yet somehow, the sight inspired everyone watching. Because courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite it. And Ayla was doing exactly that. High above the kingdom, Alpha King Kael received disturbing news. His advisors filled the war room. Maps covered the table. Reports arrived constantly. Each one worse than the last. Shadow Claw activity was increasing. Villages reported disappearances. Ancient ruins were being searched. Mercenary groups were gathering. Something major was happening. Kael listened carefully. Then one report changed everything. "The child has been captured." Kael froze. "The child?" "The one traveling with Ayla." Silence filled the room. Kael's expression darkened instantly. "What else?" The messenger swallowed. "Ayla is heading toward Blackstone Fortress." Every advisor immediately reacted. Shock. Disbelief. Concern. One alpha laughed nervously. "Alone?" "Yes." The room fell silent again. Because everyone understood what that meant. Blackstone Fortress wasn't merely dangerous. It was nearly impossible to infiltrate. Thousands had tried. Almost none succeeded. Yet Ayla was going anyway. Alone. Kael slowly stood. His decision came instantly. "Prepare my warriors." Several advisors blinked. "My king." Kael's silver eyes hardened. "We're moving." Because for the first time, this wasn't about duty. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't even about prophecy. It was about her. And that realization unsettled him more than anything else. Night fell as Ayla finally reached Blackstone Fortress. The structure emerged from the mountains like a nightmare. Massive walls. Towering gates. Countless guards. The fortress looked impossible to breach. Lightning illuminated the stone towers. Thunder echoed overhead. Ayla stared silently, then looked toward the prison windows. Somewhere inside, Finn was waiting. Fear returned briefly, then disappeared. Because there was no choice anymore. She moved forward. The first guards never saw her coming. Silver energy flashed. The warriors crashed into walls, unconscious before they could raise an alarm. Ayla continued moving. Deeper. Farther. Faster. Every hallway led her closer to Finn. More guards appeared. She fought through them. Not with cruelty. Not with hatred. Only determination. Because she wasn't there to conquer. She was there to save someone. The difference mattered. Alarms eventually sounded. The entire fortress erupted into chaos. Warriors flooded corridors. Weapons clashed. Orders echoed everywhere. Yet Ayla kept moving. Nothing could stop her now. Nothing. Finally she reached the prison level. Heavy iron doors lined the hall. Cells stretched endlessly into darkness. Ayla! The voice hit her immediately. Finn. The little pup gripped prison bars desperately. Relief flooded his face. You came. The words nearly broke her. Because they carried no surprise. No doubt. Only certainty. He always knew she would come. Ayla rushed forward. I'm here. Tears filled Finn's eyes. I knew it. Ayla smiled. Then began breaking the lock. Suddenly. Slow applause echoed through the prison. Ayla froze. A familiar voice followed. Touching. Darius stepped from the shadows. Dozens of warriors surrounded him. Every exit was blocked. Every path closed. The trap had been waiting. Ayla slowly stood, placing herself between Finn and the enemy. Darius laughed. Exactly as predicted. You wanted me here. Of course. His smile widened. The queen and the child. Ayla's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Darius looked amused. You still don't know. The Alpha spread his arms dramatically. The last Lycan Queen. Silence. The words echoed through the chamber. Ayla's heart skipped. The title felt familiar. Dangerously familiar. Yet impossible. Darius continued. The last royal bloodline. No. Yes. His eyes gleamed. The power inside you belongs to ancient queens. Ayla stepped back slightly. Memories flashed. Silver symbols. Ancient visions. The throne in the ruins. Everything suddenly connected. Everything. Before she could react further, Darius pointed toward Finn. And him. Ayla immediately moved closer to the child. You will not touch him. Darius laughed. Protective. He stays away from you. The Alpha's smile disappeared. Then he gave a simple command. Take them. The battle began. Warriors charged from every direction. Ayla fought desperately. Silver light exploded across the prison. Stone walls cracked. Chains shattered. Enemies flew backward. Yet more kept coming. Too many. Far too many. Finn watched in horror. Ayla! She blocked another attack. Then another. Then another. Blood stained her clothes. Bruises covered her arms. Exhaustion pulled at her body. Still she refused to fall. Refused to retreat. Because Finn was behind her. And that was enough. One warrior reached the child. Ayla reacted instantly. Silver power erupted. The attacker crashed through a stone wall. The entire fortress shook violently. Everyone froze. Because something was changing. Something awakening. The symbols beneath Ayla's skin began glowing brighter. 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 Until the entire chamber shone silver. Wind exploded outward. Ancient power flooded the fortress. The ground trembled. The walls cracked. Every warrior stepped backward. Fear filled their faces. Darius stared. Amazed. Obsessed. Victorious. Because he was witnessing exactly what he wanted. The complete awakening. The return of the queen. Ayla rose slowly. Silver energy surrounded her like living light. Her eyes glowed. Ancient symbols covered her skin. The last Lycan queen had finally awakened. And nothing would ever be the same again. Miles away, Alpha King Kael arrived at the fortress. The moment he felt the energy, he stopped. His heart pounded. Silver light exploded from the mountain itself, visible across the entire horizon. Kael stared. Disbelief filled his face. Because deep down, he already knew the truth, the prophecy, the mistake he made. And now, he was about to witness it with his own eyes. The woman he rejected, the woman he misunderstood, the woman he failed, was becoming something legendary, something history would never forget. Kael looked toward the glowing fortress, then whispered quietly, "Ayla," and charged forward.